Hi again, today I'm going to show you a nice, easy, basic nano pattern involving two types of strokes to give us beautiful 3D texture in the eyebrow. I'll build the pattern on latex in a few stages. Pause the video to build yours and then nano along with me in real time. Let's go! Everyone always wants to know about the equipment I'm using, so I'm going to talk you through it. This is my Allure Ambi machine. It's my favourite machine for nano. It's weighted in the middle. It's a really good value machine, 2.8mm stroke length. It's available to purchase in my shop and I will link it below as well. I only stock the things that I love, so these needles are absolutely stunning. These are also Allure needles. This is a 1RL and it's a 0.18. I also stock these Virtuo needles and I'll put the link below. So onto our latex then. This is Deluxe Brows latex. It's my favourite latex. So let's start building our pattern. We're going to do 4 strokes at the front. They're going to gradually curve over and then the 5th one is going to become our spine. Then from there we're going to start adding some strokes from the spine down to the bottom line. Make sure these strokes look like part of a circle rather than heading down vertically. The next part to add in is some strokes going up from the bottom line up towards the arch. Then from the same point we're going to put our secondary strokes in. So those strokes almost fork out from the same point. Then come all our other secondary strokes. On the first 4 strokes they start about halfway above it and curve a little bit more to the right. The next ones start in the spine and come down about halfway. And now it's time to switch our machine on. Right, so my machine is on about 5.7 volts, but remember it all depends on your hand and how fast your machine runs. There is no perfect speed. The hand has to match the machine speed. The first movement that I'm going to do is I'm going to line pull. So I'm going to do one single movement along the hair stroke steadily to really get a crisp line and actually set that pattern in. This is one of the trickier movements to do in nano, but actually having those lines there to follow is going to make it a lot easier for you. It is far easier to follow a pattern. Now on a person I wouldn't put this many lines in, I would just put the initial skeleton strokes in, but here when you're practicing and you want an easy pattern, you might as well do it. So the first line I'm going to do is the spine. If you feel that your hand runs out of space doing these strokes, then I would stop in the stroke, reposition your hand and then go back rather than shake and wobble all the way along it. So now I've set my spine in, I'm going to go along and do my initial strokes from that spine. I actually do start on the spine and then come down from it, so there's me just getting my position in there. You'll have to ignore my nails. I had a really bad manicure done in America and they are absolutely trashed and I'm having to grow them out, so they really do look a mess at the moment. And here we go again, down from the spine, fingers blocking it slightly, but it's really hard to position the camera where you can see at all angles. But start on the spine and you can see I'm just steadily pulling that line downwards, steadily downwards. It is just the taper of the needle that is going into the latex, so that's the very end, the sharp bit of the needle. If you go too deep on a person, you're going to get really uneven results and they can blow out as well under the skin. My hand is going to block slightly those first 3 strokes, but I'm going to describe what I'm doing. I'm starting at the bottom and working my way up, just doing those first 3 strokes at the front of the brow. Always come into the stroke steadily so that you're not just starting at the front of the hair stroke, because you're going to get a blunt end of it. So you want to sort of sweep into the stroke, you know, imagine just like coming in gently, and then you need to do the same at the other end as well so that all of the hairs look nice and tapered. Already we're on to the strokes in the tail, so starting from the bottom, and you can see there how I sort of pull the needle gently out of the latex, and just there we go. I'm forking those strokes. That's what I mean by those forked strokes there. So we're starting from the same position and then coming out into a separate branching stroke. So you can see there that I go into that stroke really gently, so it's not a harsh end on it, and then just sweep out and then onto the branching stroke there and sweeping out. You see that sweeping movement? That's what's going to give you those lovely tapered ends that make the hair strokes look really natural. And again, for these last few strokes, you can see that this has not taken me that long. People can struggle with line pulling, and I'll give you a video at the end to go to if that's what you're struggling with, because it does take practice to follow a line. So just putting that extra final stroking, and then we're going to go from the spine actually onto those branching strokes now, so they don't come down quite as far, and just again pull out at the bottom to give it a really nice tapered end. So I was going to cut out the bits where my hand blocks it, but so many of you have actually said that you really like it done in real time, so this video is for you, all done in real time with nothing cut out. And then let's just go and put that final stroke in there. You can see how steadily my hand moves. Another trick for doing it on people is to put some hustle butter on the heel of your hand so that your hand glides along. What happens is you run out of room, and that's where people can feel like their hair strokes get out of control, because they're sort of pulling a line, and then they feel like their hand's running out of space. And so keeping your hand actually well moistened so it can glide along the skin is a really good tip. What I'm doing now is some shaded strokes on those front ones, the branching strokes, the secondary strokes there. So we're just doing some it's more like a shuffling movement. I have made another video on this, and again I'll link that at the end. These are just more shaded strokes, so that we're going to have a crisp line next to a shaded line, and that's going to give us a real 3D texture. So it's those secondary strokes that are at the front of the brow that have got that are a little bit more pixelated. Now you can see already that the pattern's really well set in. I didn't have my machine particularly high. I'm using inorganic pigment to do it. So now I'm just going to actually start picking out some detail, putting some shading. I've turned my machine down now to about a 5.4, and you can see I've slowed my hand down. I'm going to just do some nice shaded strokes. So instead of doing one single hand movement, I'm doing several. I'm kind of brushing now, and that's going to spread out those pixels and just make them a little bit more pixelated and softer, so that you're going to have different textures in the brow. You need to be aware on people that the ones with the line pulling are going to heal in much stronger. So I'm adding this texture here just for a 3D effect, and to just emphasize certain bits. So now I want to emphasize the spine and the initial strokes that were coming from it, so our primary strokes there. So I'm just actually shading along that, just to make that stand out a bit more. The reason we would do this, if you look on a person, like I've got quite a lot of brow hair on top of my ombre, and when I look at my brow hair, there is a real distinct spine there, and because the hair grows out of there, it's thicker and it is darker. So I'm emphasizing that on this pattern and just shading over those little bits. I'm going to do the same on those secondary strokes that are at the front. Just go and just give them a little bit more shading. At this point we're just being more artistic and just softening some of the ends up, just putting a little bit of shading in between some strokes, just adding that texture, adding that 3D look with different styles of strokes. So this is just on our secondary strokes. That's going to be the first 3 that are slightly more curved, right? So I'm just adding a little bit more texture, making them look a bit bolder, because on a person they're not going to heal in as well. So also we may want to put a little bit of shading between some of the strokes. I don't want too much there. And you can see at the arch, all those feathered strokes blend into the skin there. So it's going to look quite soft and natural there. So anywhere that's just looking like it needs a bit more shading, I'm going to add that in with this more staggered movement. And it is, as I said, at a lower voltage. If you keep the machine at the same voltage, you just don't get those spread out pixels, and so it's can be a little bit too harsh. This is a really good way of just going over any of your previous lines and just emphasizing them slightly. So again, you get that more sort of light and dark textures in the brow. So after this, I'm just going to go and give it another wipe with some 91% alcohol, and you can see how that's already a really strong pattern. I'm just going to go in and see if there's any other bits that need shading, maybe taper out some ends, maybe just put a couple more little shaded strokes in there, just really small ones, again just for the texture. So if you see any gaps between your strokes, you can see I'm just putting some little feathery ones in there. If there's any of my strokes that don't quite go far enough, I'm just going to extend them slightly. I'm just popping a Smaller stroke in there. We don't want to leave too little negative space. If you fill absolutely everything in, then obviously your strokes spread when they heal, so you need to be aware of that. I'm just emphasising some of those upper strokes there near the arch. But this is all with a soft movement. These will just, I'm just emphasising this really delicately. And this will put loads of beautiful texture in. Got some lovely curved strokes there. And I can see just some of those just want to come down a little bit more there. I can see that wants to be extended a little bit more. And then we're going to have loads of definition in that spine. And I'll just pop a tiny little shaded stroke in there. And we're all about done. You can see there me shading on those initial strokes. Wipe again, let's see how it looks. And so in less than 10 minutes we've created a really nice nano pattern. If you're struggling with shaded strokes, then I made this video here. And if you are struggling from transitioning from microblading to machine, then I made this other video as well, and these should help you transition to this.